we today just have a quick little set of notes on some more rational exponents. And before we move on to the new stuff, let's just review what we have already established. Remember, if we have x to the 1/2, that's the same thing as the square root of x. If we have x to the 1/3, that is the cube root of x. And if I have something like x to the 2/3 power, what that means is my denominator tells me the root I'm taking. I have the cube root of x, and my numerator tells me what I am raising that expression to, what power. So that is the rational exponents we have already learned. Today we are going to talk about when we have negative exponents. So when I have a negative exponent, all that means is my term that the power applies to is on the wrong side of the fraction. So if I have x to the negative n, that means it belongs in my denominator. And when I move it to the denominator, that exponent becomes positive. Now, if I had x to the negative n in the denominator, I could bring it to my numerator and it would become positive. So all this means is that my exponent is in the wrong side of its fraction. So let's do these 4 problems. And another thing we're going to focus on with these 4 is determining what part of the expression is the exponent applying to. So let's look at A. I have negative 4x to the negative 2. Now the negative 2 is only applying to the x. If the negative 4x was in parentheses and the whole thing was raised to the negative 2 power, then it would apply to both. But it's only applying to the x. So I'm just going to move the x to my denominator so that it becomes positive. Negative 4 will stay in the top. And when I'm moving it to the denominator, that 2 becomes positive. So this is negative 4 over x squared. Let's look at B. 3x to the negative 1. Again here, the exponent is only applying to the x. So 3 will stay in my numerator, and x goes to the bottom. X to the 1 is just x, and so I have 3 over x. Looking at C, notice how I have this whole expression in parentheses being raised to the negative 2 power. That means this entire expression has to move to my denominator so that my exponent becomes positive 2. Now, what is my numerator going to be? When you move everything into the denominator and there's nothing left over, your numerator is 1. And on to our last one, D. I have this whole expression in parentheses being raised to the negative 1 power, and then I have the x minus 2. So everything that is raised to the negative 1, I'm going to move into my denominator so that it becomes to the positive 1 power, and anything raised to the 1 power is just itself. And then my numerator is going to be those leftovers, x minus 2. Now, what does this look like? This looks like one of those rational expressions we just learned how to simplify. So let's go ahead and do that just for good measure. I cannot factor my numerator, so I'm going to leave it as x minus 2. My denominator is a trinomial, and I can go ahead and factor that into x minus 2 times x minus 1. I have a common factor, x minus 2, x minus 2, so those will divide out. And so I'm going to have x minus 1 in my denominator, and my numerator is just 1. All right, and that is it for those notes. I said they'd be nice, short, and sweet, just a little half page. Negative exponents just means they are on the wrong side of the fraction. So if it's in the numerator, move it to the denominator. If it's in the denominator, move it to the numerator.